Please take a moment now to silence your cell phones. And if you're confident that your cell phone is silenced, look anyway. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, v'imru, amen. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yahaseh shalom, Yahaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Death has taken our beloved Sarah Singer-Nourie. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them, for Sarah's love that united so many of us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that was shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought so much joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. We continue with the 23rd Psalm. If you know it, please join me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, leave her be. She's good. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. The glory of life is not that it endures forever, but that for a time it includes so much that is beautiful. It is a tree to those that grasp it, and happy are those who retain it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. We do not demand that the flower shall never die, nor that the song shall never end. Nor would we be angry with life because one day its beauty will be dust, its music silent, and all its laughter and tears forgotten. Life, the reality, is ours. We would shape it as nobly as we can. We will not linger like timid sailors in port, but we will live dangerously, devoting ourselves with vigor to what seems to us good, beautiful, and true. The glory of life is love, love unending. The poet writes, birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going and growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude and pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. This is entitled, What Will Matter? Ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There will be no more sunrises, no minutes, hours, days. All things you collected, whether treasured or forgotten, will pass to someone else. Your wealth, fame, and temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. It will not matter what you owned or what you owed. Your grudges, resentments, frustrations, and jealousies will finally disappear. So too, your hopes, ambitions, plans, and to-do lists will expire. The wins and losses that once seemed so important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from or what side of the tracks. At the end, whether you were beautiful or brilliant, male or female, even your skin color won't matter. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people you knew, but how many will feel a lasting loss when you're gone. What will matter is not your memories, but the memories that live in those who loved you. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but of choice. Choose to live a life that matters. We're going to take a moment now for silent prayer, remembering Sarah as she was in her highest moments. We pray silently. Yehiyu l'ratzonim refiva hagyon libi, may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. This week, Jewish people all over the world will be reading about commandments in Parshat Va'etchanan. We review the watchword of our faith, the Shema, which declares the oneness of God. We also learn the commandment to teach our children, Vishinantam levanecha. In the context of the book, we are to teach the words of Torah to our children. Today, we are remembering a woman who personified the idea of teacher, and her Torah was not so far off from what was in the scroll. She was a gifted mother and friend and teacher and aunt and sister and cheerleader and mentor, and all of it through the lens of an educator who understood that what she taught was more than just what you needed for a test or basic competence. Sarah Singer-Nourie lived her life by example and inspired hundreds and hundreds of people to embrace the best vision and version of themselves, and thereby embrace what about them makes the world and their lives better. Sarah was a remarkable professional and a treasured wife, daughter, sister, aunt, and friend, but her role as mother to Ray and Zoe and Micah was her most favorite, most of the time, crowning achievement. We call on Ray and Zoe and Micah now to share some thoughts that will help us remember their remarkable mom.
My mom is the single most incredible person I have ever met. She was a writer, a published author, a teacher, leader, role model, activist, sunset-chasing, nature-loving supermom, and my best friend. Being my mom's daughter means more to me than I have words to describe. It meant never missing a good sunset, even if we had to pull over on the shoulder of the highway for it. It meant constant photo ops, always singing in the car, and spontaneous adventures. A mom that not only let me go skydiving on a whim, but came up in the plane to watch. It meant my friends going to her for advice, pump-up playlists for any event, major or minor, late-night talks even when we both had to be up early, endless pictures of changing leaves and blue skies, Friday night Shabbats, contagious laughter, screaming at the TV during any sporting event, family movie nights, epic-themed birthday parties, always trying new things, dancing in public, everything having the potential to be a teaching moment and include a motivational speech, never missing an Ohio State football game, sailing lessons in the backyard during COVID, impromptu animal rescues, her always finding a way to push me outside my comfort zone, and unconditional love. But one of my favorite things about having her as my mom was the constant reminder from everyone I meet about the incredible impact she made. She never just made ripples, but waves, and left a piece of herself with every interaction. She was the light of my life and an inspiration to so many around her. My mom appreciated the little things in a very special way. She never missed an opportunity to admire a changing tree in fall or a cloud-striped sky. Many of you know her mantra to be look up, something I can still hear her saying to me now. Her ability to look up and appreciate the beautiful world around her is something we can all strive to do more of, and something I know I always do, thinking of her. While she literally wanted everyone to take a moment by looking up, this also speaks to her relentless positivity. Any hatred or intolerance in the world she saw as her own personal battle to fight and never gave up on someone who needed her. She never did something half-heartedly. She was all in, all the time. A tradition my mom started in our house was going around the table at family dinner to share 3 things you were grateful for. No matter how tough life seemed or how bad your day was, she always pushed you to find the good. Her infectious positivity and strength shined through, even during some of her toughest moments in her battle with glioblastoma. I am heartbroken to say goodbye to my best friend, but seeing all of you here today reminds me that her memory will be a blessing to so many. She left an impact on every person that she met in an incredibly unique way. Just like she loved to do, I would like to pose a challenge to each of you today. Take a moment to be grateful, a moment to be present, and a moment to look up. These 3 simple things may feel extra difficult right now. I know they do for me, but in her eyes, that was all the more reason to try. She truly is the most special person I've ever known, and I feel lucky to have had her as my mom. With every sunrise, sunset, and beautiful moment in between, we can channel the light my mom brought to this world and carry on her legacy of love and strength forever.
I have always admired the way my mom saw the world, and through her enthusiasm, my siblings and I grew to see it that way too. No amount of time on this planet could acclimate her to the awe-invoking beauty of a sunset or vibrant autumn leaf. On multiple occasions, my siblings and I complained as we were late to school yet again because Mom insisted on chasing a particularly beautiful sunrise. Growing up, my siblings and I were rarely allowed to wear the color black. She wanted us to illuminate the world, not darken it, just as she did. My mom truly was a force of nature, so uniquely full of passion and enthusiasm. She rejoiced in celebrating others. My mom was able to unlock the greatness in every person and empower them to do the same. She possessed the rare ability to connect with everyone in a sincere, meaningful way, allowing them to feel seen. Growing up, my mom possessed a fundamental need to surround us with joy and light. In our household, the word hate was never tolerated. Her boundless love and positive energy could be felt the moment she entered a room. My mom championed standing up to all hatred in the world. She was never a bystander, and by example, neither am I. In my mom's eyes, nothing was out of reach, despite how illogical or pursuit was deemed by others. My mom believed deeply that living in comfort isn't living at all. It is only when we venture outside of our comfort zones that we can achieve greatness, as reflected in her legacy. She never stopped reaching for the next outlet of positive impact. Even in the early stages of her cancer, she still finished her newest book, ensuring that the world would be able to access her wisdom and continue to better itself, even in her absence. She poured all of herself into everything she did, always all in. I have never met someone as full of life as my mom, which is why her death is so visceral. Her absence is profound, yet so is her lasting impact. I will continue to see the world in the extraordinary way my mom was able to, and I hope that all of you will channel it as well.
Some superheroes wear capes. Some superheroes have suits. Some you don't even know at all. My mom was a superhero. She was my superhero. The more I think about my mom, superhero seems to fit almost too perfectly. For those who got the pleasure of meeting her, you may know what I mean. Her indescribable energy radiating through everyone around her, all the way to the edge of the earth. Her vast love and kindness for everyone and everything she crossed paths with. Her insurmountable presence of mind and focus on whatever stood in front of her or was thrown her way. She instilled these things in the three of us and at a very young age, but she also showed us what it meant and how to be a leader. To be a leader in our family or our friend group or even our community. My mom had the innate ability to walk into any room somehow and get everyone to listen to her. To listen to whatever crazy exercise or idea she had in mind. You could try to fight it, but you might as well give up, because she was never going to back down. She would not back down to anything. Her resilience, toughness, and soul were truly a marvel throughout her life, especially the last year and a half, which I strive to represent every day. All of this being said, Mom, thank you. Thank you for being a role model. Thank you for being a teacher and my friend. The best friend I could ever ask for. Your smile will live inside all of us. Your soul and impact on me and the rest of the world will live on forever. I know you will be with me.
I know you'll be with me, looking up at every sunrise, sunset, and starry night. You will be with me wherever I go. I love you forever, Mom. Thank you for being my superhero.
All right, everyone, take a deep breath. There's more. You can't be Sarah Singer-Nourie and not expect there to be more. Elaine, you're going to want to hear this. You're going to want to hear this. It is my job to fill in some of the gaps, and if I had any class, I'd just sit down and we'd be done, but I don't. Sarah was the youngest child. Is this right, Elaine? Youngest child born to Alan of blessed memory and you. Her eldest brother Blair is 16 years older than Sarah, and Tim is 12 years older, Betsy just 4 years older, and then Sarah. They were all raised in Canton, Ohio. They are having a watch party now, so hi, Canton. With some wonderful family time at the cottage in Atwood. Sarah was crazy about both of her parents, loved to sail with them, and learned above all the value of family. Sarah's life in high school was a bit turbulent. She was very smart, but wasn't always happy at school, and from time to time, a bit rebellious. Imagine that. Blair was friends with the founder of Super Camp, and he suggested that Sarah attend back in 1985. It only took that first exposure to Super Camp for Sarah to feel empowered to embrace learning in the style she needed, rather than the way the school was insisting. It was like a switch flipped, and her whole approach to everything was better. It wasn't long after that she was running a Super Camp-style session for the teachers and students in the high school as a high school student. That was more than just chutzpah. That was Sarah's contagious energy that was pervasive and persuasive, engaging, invitational, but most of all loving. Sarah was a proud graduate of the Ohio State University. It's burning a hole in me. Every once in a while, she would have to take on one of the professors for not grading Sarah appropriately. You see, sometimes she would write a very well-written paper but take issue with the professor's understanding of the material or philosophical approach. And while the paper was well-written and she had done the assignment in a satisfactory way, some professors made two mistakes. The first was that they graded Sarah based on whether she agreed with content rather than learned it and then rejected it. And second, they chose to penalize Sarah for being Sarah. One year, Sarah was taking a required class in public speaking, because that's Ohio State. In that class was a young man that caught her eye. She would, okay, everybody relax. I'm still wearing the tie. In that public speaking class, Sarah would wear her OSU sailing sweatshirt in such a way that Colin Norrie would be sure to notice her name embroidered on it. Eventually, Colin and Sarah would get together. When Sarah realized that Colin was embracing Judaism and was beginning the conversion process, she realized that this meant they were getting married. So without Colin being allowed to formally ask her, or ask her dad, she blurted out, "That means we're engaged, right?" And off Sarah went as she did a mile a minute. After graduating OSU, Sarah and Colin moved to Chicago, where Colin began his career in design, and Sarah was a classroom teacher and on the staff of Super Camp. She became a teacher and Israel trip chaperone at Chicago's Temple Sholem, where we met. Eventually, Sarah realized that while she loved the students, she could help people become better teachers by sharing her understanding of the way people learn and the importance of empowering people in their learning by becoming an educational consultant and a consultant for businesses and a consultant in leadership development and coaching. She was one of the 3 authors of the book Quantum Teaching and was the author of her more recent book, Tap into Greatness, and I guess there's another book coming, right? What's it called? Do we know? What? Okay. She would begin most sessions with something very out front and energetic, usually way more happy, upbeat, and intrusive than was comfortable for the people in the room. And by the end, only the most determined curmudgeons were not invested in what Sarah was preaching. Sarah and Colin's stint in Chicago came to an end, and Cincinnati was the destination for raising their beautiful family. Colin is from this area, and his parents and a few siblings of Colin's and Sarah's sister Betsy and her family were already here. When they arrived, they were looking for a house that was not to be big enough for their stuff, or even for raising their family, but for getting family together. Elaine and Alan had made sure that this family, filled with siblings with a 16-year age range, would be close and loving. Sarah's connection with Blair and Tim, while different than Betsy, was strong and loving. Sarah admired the work that Blair did, and while not exactly the same, Blair was the person who, as she wrote in her Tap into Greatness book, notoriously knows when to reach into my life and urge me to the right place just in time before I implode. And alternatively, Tim said that Sarah's voice is what he hears when wondering about various situations. In time, Sarah and Blair and Tim and their wives, Eileen and Judy, embraced the adult relationship that they enjoyed. They loved her energy, her ability to give a great gift, and her relentless pursuit of family togetherness. Sarah's connection to Betsy and Ricky was as close as siblings get. Sarah and Betsy were best friends. And when it was time for Elaine to join the family here in Cincinnati, Betsy and Sarah were partners in helping Elaine get settled. Sarah loved to be with Tim and Blair's family, and her niece and nephews, Ben, Zach, and Alyssa, and was present with them as much as she could be. Ricky and Betsy's kids, Lev and Claire and Abby, Grace and Nathan, saw Sarah as a second mom, as only in-town family can. Once, one of the nieces went to a single hot yoga class with Sarah, and Sarah understood that to be a gesture to become hyper-involved into all the things of good health that it represented. They also remember the family vacations and the holiday celebrations and everything together all the time philosophy. But Sarah was more than a treasured aunt or sister. She was a life force, as we've heard. Sarah's energy was so infectious that she was tapped by the Jewish Federation to run the Cincy 2020 initiative that had this community try to come together, set priorities, and learn that our communal energy is better put toward shared values than petty competition. She was a valued member of the Valley Temple, chairing our religious school committee, training teachers and madrichim and directors of education, participating in our Friday Night Live band, and always with a good costume, frequently made by Colin, in our Purim spiel. She taught seniors with my colleagues and me and helped the overall curriculum at the high school program. She worked with the Waldorf School as president for a time, and when it was time to create a permanent space for that school, she helped raise the money as only Sarah could, full steam ahead, and as one person said, she weaponized her enthusiasm. She brought teens on March of the Living and insisted that this not be just any trip, but a real journey filled with intention and meaning. She worked with them on Project 6 Million, but also showed them how to see the world without being afraid of depth or seeking meaning. And Sarah was human. Every once in a while, we'd hear an off note at Friday Night Live, and she'd sheepishly admit it was her. She had a rare ability, I'm told, to break or lose a cell phone. once even having it fall into a chocolate fountain. While she didn't like it when the kids would be on their cell phones on a long drive, Sarah was frequently answering a text or posting something on social media. She spent so much time appreciating a beautiful sky when she drove that windows with visible antenna, you know those things that are kind of taped in there, she wouldn't drive those cars. She in fact loved to look out the window so much that she would forget to look at the gas gauge and ran out of gas a number of times. It is true that Sarah had a blunt style to her also. She wanted to see where you could go and the heights you could reach, and she was willing to be there with you as you went. She spoke truth, tried not to offend, but wasn't afraid to be direct. She didn't need us to change to be like her, but wanted us to help her help us be better versions of the people we are. And it wasn't about judgment, but about owning the moment so that we could build to the place we wanted to go. Ever since Sarah's diagnosis, many have asked questions that aren't going to be answered. Why? And why her? Sarah understood that this was a challenge that lay ahead. And she gathered her doctors in her room and insisted they join Team Sarah that day. But the person who was the captain of the team was Colin. Sarah and Colin were the best version of partners and teammates. Colin stepped up like only he could and figured out how to do whatever it took to move things forward as long as he could. Sarah relied on Colin's positive approach, gentle and kind manner, forthrightness, and innate leadership to inspire the caregivers. Inspire them that doing what we all could do was a way to honor Sarah. And he succeeded. It was never likely that Sarah was going to beat this problem. But the time she had was marked with thorough understanding of the illness, the possibilities, and the dignity that allowed Sarah to be surrounded by family at home. That's all Colin. I recently had the privilege of speaking with Elaine, Sarah's mom, who we will all be watching very closely. She told me to tell you all that no matter what, Sarah was a teacher. And then Elaine said that she will always be grateful to Colin for the extra special care he gave her daughter. She also told me a lot of other things too. There is a phrase from the Psalms that says, Zeh hayom asa Adonai nagilah v'nismecha bo. This is the day that God has made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. My understanding of my friend Sarah is that this is the way she lived her life. And while God may have made today, it is too hard to be glad and rejoice in it. Not today. Today is the day that we acknowledge the creative spirit that God gives to each day and the double dose God gave to Sarah. And we acknowledge on this day the command to teach our children. And as we remember Sarah Singer-Nourie, we embrace her family and hold them tight because there is so much more that she wanted for you. We remember that remarkable energy, that one speed she had of all in, all the time. We remember her ability to take 130,000 pictures on her cell phone and chronicle life while living it as if life was too short to waste. We will remember how everyone was her friend. She never met a stranger, and that the beauty in the world was worth looking at. We will remember how she taught us to stand up for ourselves, to fiercely love those around us, and to be the energy that a room needs, not for our own glory, but because the room needs our energy. And when we remember Sarah and the many lessons she taught, we will soon return to days when we can be glad and rejoice. As Sarah put it herself in the end of her book, it's all you. Trust yourself, believe in each other, and you will tap greatness every time. You've got this, she wrote, and I'm behind you, committed to your success 100% of the time. Go. May the memory of this truly righteous woman be for an eternal and abiding blessing. Amen. Please rise for the memorial prayer. Into your care, O God, we entrust the spirit of Sarah Singer-Nourie, for you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, O God, are with us, a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our life, our hope in eternity. El malei rachamim, shochem bamromim. Hamtzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina, im kirushim utehorim kezohar harakia masirim et nishmat Sarah bat Abraham v'Chava, shehalacha la'olama. Ba'al harachamim yastireha beseter kanafav la'olamim, v'yitzror b'yitzror ha'chaim et nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata v'tanuach b'shalom, al mishkava v'nomar, amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Sarah Singer-Nourie, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. Please be seated.
Folks, thank you all so much for coming out today. Shiva is going to be held this evening at the Nourie residence, which is 10411 Shady Side Lane, 45249. Shiva will be held tonight and tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Please come. If I could now ask the pallbearers to please step forward. Folks, we're going to get ready to head to the cemetery. If I could have everyone who's going to the cemetery, please head to your car, turn on your headlights, and get ready. We're going to head out in procession. Thank you so much for coming.